bring this meeting to attention. If you'd like to participate, I'd ask for your silence. There will be public participation this evening, as we've had in the past 2 months. I would ask that personal testimonials about the importance of the lights of Sirico Field be passed over at this meeting. I think we all understand the importance to the community. Tonight, I would ask that the public participation only be for new information, new ideas, and new solutions. I'd like to begin with our athletic director, please.
Thank you, Jason. First off, I just want to thank the school committee and administration for holding this special meeting to address further options for the installation of multi-sports lighting on Sirico Field. I appreciate everybody's extra time during the summer months getting underway. I also want to thank members who have reached out to myself and others in the community for assistance to meet our common goal for the students of Silver Lake. Specifically, thank you to Susan Woodworth of Kingston Park and Rec for offering Rizzo Field and other agencies for offer of temporary lighting at the field. I provided the school committee tonight with a list to look at a number of items that came to me in the last 2 weeks, whether it be renting, using neighboring fields, some of the other items that came up at the last meeting. I did provide that information to the school committee for tonight. At this point in time, I would like to turn this presentation over to Kingston resident and Silver Lake girls basketball coach Ollie DiBasito, who's worked diligently in the past few weeks, meeting with parents, boosters, myself, coaches, vendors, and local community members.
Thank you. Thanks, Martha. Thanks, school committee. Thank you, first of all, for, I know it's the middle of the summer and everything else. There it is. Getting a little confused. For giving us the opportunity to come back 2 weeks from that we just had. And we have been working really hard. And I just, I know that I spoke with Joy, the superintendent. I spoke with the chairman. I haven't spoken to anybody on the committee, but I reached out to Mr. Creed, Matt Glenn, the electrical contractor. We've met, of course, my brother, will be here shortly. He's in traffic, but he'll be here in any minute. And trying to come together and make this all work. And a couple of things that I just want to really assure the school committee, because obviously myself and my company are going to be involved in putting these lights, together and making it happen. And I wanted to let you know a little bit about myself so you understand that why I'm choosing to do this. My credentials, I work for Boston Sand and Gravel. I don't know if you guys know who Boston Sand and Gravel are, but they're right in the middle of the city. I run all their companies outside the city, which are 3 separate companies, from Metro West to Weymouth to Plimpton and the Cape, and that's what I do. I'm in the construction world. I do this on a daily basis. All the new schools, other than Silver Lake, I've been involved in building, Plymouth North, Plymouth Hanson, East Bridgewater, West Bridgewater Fields. So I've done all that stuff. In the town of Kingston, I was a selectman for many, many years. Even the Pottle Street you just mentioned, I was involved with many other people, but it was my concept to make that happen, and there was a lot of opposition at first with the Pottle Fields. But every time I go there and I see all the kids and all the people that have gone through that over the years that it's happened, it happened. And that was a public-private partnership. I got Peter Opachinski from SLT to be involved in that, and a lot of that work was done for free by private contractors to make that whole concept of that field in Kingston to happen. It's one of the best, complexes in the South Shore, and I was proud to be a part of that. Many other selectmen, Ted Alexiadis in particular, people that really got together to make that happen in the town of Kingston. My whole criteria is that I've always, I fundraise all the time. I run the Thanksgiving celebration in Plymouth. I raise over $200,000 every single year. It's tough, but we do it. So I don't know how it happens, but we do, to put on this thing, which is a national event. And I do that. And I'm just saying it not in a way, whatever. I just want you to know that I'm here on behalf of our community to try to make it happen one more time if we can do it. And I think together we can kind of put that together if at all possible. When I was here 2 weeks ago, I was kind of late in the introduction of this. My brother Vinicio, Senator DiMacedo. And I listened to what the concerns were from the board, and I thought you guys had very valid concerns. And so I went back, I met with Coach Chris, I met with Martha, and I began to think about ways that we could possibly do this so that it doesn't impact what you guys are trying to do on a committee. I've been a selectman for many years, and I know the challenges of just juggling the money, trying to get everything paid for, trying to get all the needs met for everyone. It's never easy. It's always very, very difficult. And so my idea was to try to make things kind of work. One of the things I heard was about the lease. Why should we lease them and pay an additional $60,000 over 10 years? And from the $316 that we had last time, it would have been $380,000. And maybe we should just buy it outright. I thought that was a good idea. I thought it didn't make sense for us. I think it makes a lot more sense for us just to buy it at one time, rather than going into a lease and an agreement and paying some company an additional $60,000. So really the price tag for us initially would have eventually been $380,000 for the set of lights. And I know that didn't make sense. And as a selectman, it didn't make sense to me either. So that was a very good point. And also, I also believe that if we buy it one time, it's done, it's over, we don't worry about it. And I thought that made sense as well. I also realized that you guys had a lot of different concerns, whether we rented the lights for $35,000 for 1 year or for 2 years for $70,000. I listened to everything that was going on, and I said to myself, we could do that obviously and put off this for 2 years. A couple things rang in my mind just as a businessman. Number one, we all know what's going on with the steel industry right now. And for example, all these poles are steel poles. It's a pretty legit system that we're trying to place here at Silver Lake. I don't know if the price of that steel a year from now, 2 years from now, is going to go 10%, 20%, 50%, or maybe 100%. Who knows? We don't know that. But I know that today we could buy these lights for $180,000. And I know that you've reached out, many of you've reached out to the Army Corps of Engineers, all the same concept. I have nothing different. I'm not introducing anything new that this committee has not already looked into. All I'm saying is that after doing everything, my brother V and I have a relationship with Matt Glenn, who's a very large electrical contractor in the area out of Plymouth, Mass. And he's done dozens upon dozens of high schools, electrical systems, fields, etc. And he met with Coach and I. We went through everything. We showed him what we had. And we began to think how we could put this together and make it kind of all happen. And basically the proposal is pretty simple. My company, which is, you know, the most local one that I run right here in Plimpton, which is Lawrence Ready Mix, which is in Plimpton, Mass. We'll donate all the concrete and the labor to put these lights and erect these lights. That's our part. We'll do that, and we do that all the time. It's not anything new. I've always been involved in trying to do things. I mean, as you know, my brother and I love this community. We're a part of it. We grew up out of this. So anytime we can do anything to try to help, we want to be able to help. We've done it. Just a little side note, not in a braggadocious way, but the actual, what's that little building that's there now? What's that called?
The press box?
The press box. The press box, Mr. Sirico was my neighbor growing up, and Vinny and I donated the money for that, all the materials for that press box to be built. That was 20-something years ago. We had a little business in Kingston. We did that a long, long time ago. Even that press box, and that was because our relationship with the Sirico family. And we thought it was the right thing to do. And then the kids in the school ended up putting that together from the carpentry. So that was great. So this is nothing new for us. We really want to be able to help when we can help. To make a long story short, and not, you know, I'm going to let my brother Vinny speak to the legislative aspect of it. I just want to present what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is that we were looking 2 weeks ago at a bill of perhaps $380,000 over 10 years. What I'd like to propose is that the school committee would be able to buy the lights one time, $180,000. We have some estimates. We do an RFP. It may be less than 180, but I figure the worst scenario from all the research that I've done, countrywide, 180 is a legitimate number. And these are legit 80-foot poles. They're steel. They're actually galvanized steels. They'll be here a lot longer than all of us sitting around the table learning here. These young kids may have children and grandchildren that will still enjoy those lights, but we'll be gone. Those lights were there a long, long time. It's a one-time purchase. So I was looking to see if there's any way that the school committee could find a way to come up with the 180 now so we could do it immediately. Our first night game is September 7th. Time is of the essence. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do. Martha and I have a lot of things with RFPs, getting things out, so you guys can, you know, so we can make a decision on the best bid out there to make this kind of thing happen. So we're looking for you guys to come up with an additional $80,000. If we even did the route of the renting for 2 years, that's $70,000. But that's gone. We never get it back. This way, it happens. We have that. And if we were able somehow to come together tonight, and you guys could vote, if there's a way you can find it, I want you to do it that it makes sense for the school committee, it makes sense for the 3 towns that are involved, and it's also a legal thing to do. I'm not looking to do anything illegally. If we can have a legal way of making this happen, I really ask you to just see if there's a way we can make it come together. Now, my brother Vinny, who's a state senator from Kingston to Falmouth, and we're always partners in crime and everything we do, it seems, but I reached out to Vinny. Of course, Vinny's an alma mater. This is his alma mater as well. He went through the exact same school, except this was a field at the time. And he is proposing to do something for us at the state level. I'm going to let him speak to that, and then I'll just close real quickly. And because after he speaks, if he's able to do what he says he can do, which is he doesn't know, obviously, then if he's able to get at least $75,000 for us, literally these lights would have cost this school committee $105,000, and you've already appropriated $100,000. So that's getting as close as we possibly can, doing the partnership from the community, partnership with the school committee, with the 3 towns, and they come together. I'm gonna let Vinny speak real quick. Vinny?
What has my brother got me into? Ollie obviously reached out to me to explain what was happening, and forgive me for coming late. It was just traffic's a nightmare coming back. But he explained to me, geez, you know what, the challenge that the school's facing with the lights, and how Vinny, is there any way that there's a fund of money at the state that we can do this? And to be honest with you, there really isn't any specific thing. We do our funding through a Chapter 70 program, and you all know how that all works. But what happens is every year as a representative of these communities, there are things that I do what they call earmarks. And so if this was a month and a half earlier, I would have tried to have pushed this into the budget this year as an earmark specifically for lighting for the Silver Lake school system. Just to give you an example, I got a call from your town administrator. There was a shortage in revenue in regards to Grays Beach, and is there anything that we can do? I was able to get $25,000 for the building at Grays Beach in this particular budget. Now, of course, the budget's done now, so we've voted on it. So the only thing I can do is, and I'm sharing now, is next year I will file an amendment. I'm committing to filing an amendment next year for $75,000. That being said, you can never guarantee anything. So this isn't a guarantee that you've got $75,000 next year. I have to file the amendment. I have to go through the process, make the case to my colleagues, and then, as things progress, get it. I feel like it's a very real possibility, but I also have to give the caveat. I can't promise it because I don't even know if I'll be here, next year in regards to, everyone has elections and whatnot. So you have to be honest.
Is that a plug?
Yeah, I know. But I say that to the point that I will try though. I've been successful in the past in doing different things. I got $100,000 for the town of Pembroke in regards to handicap accessibility for the Herring Run. Just recently in the previous year's budget. So it's something that we do. So that's where my commitment is. And of course, from my brother's perspective, is like anything we can do. I'm only sharing what I think I can do. I know you have difficult issues to deal with in regards to budgets, and that's what I do. And I'm on the conference committee, and the budget, it's a challenge each and every year. So I do appreciate it, but I also do know the significance of what those lights will mean to this community. I will say one thing. I've watched my brother my entire life, and if he gets something in his mind, he is going to do everything he can to make it happen. And I do think that there's some wisdom in, instead of spending the $380,000, trying to find a way and having a public-private partnership and trying to raise money to do whatever we can't do. I know Matt Glynn, huge philanthropist in our area, Glenn Electric, and I know that he's going to help us. So to that extent, if that's helpful to you and your deliberations, I give you my words. I'll do everything I can, and working in concert with them. And I just think you're going to see this community rally around us as well to make this a reality if it's within your financial considerations to do that. So I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. I hope it's helpful.
Thanks, Tim. Just in closing, the last thing, Glenn Electric met with Coach and I. We went through everything that's there, what's existing, and what we would need. We would have to change transformers out on Lake Street, which is an Eversource issue that hopefully my brother can help us with that as well. Because we need more power to run the new lights as opposed to the old lights. One of the things that I thought was really striking, that when I met with Matt Glenn, he was trying to get us some actual figures today, but he's just been so crazy busy, he was unable to. But the lights we're going to put in, the savings alone in electricity are going to be huge. Not 5%, not 6%, but large amount, in the thousands of dollars by using the new lights opposed to the old metal halide lights. It's huge savings. So over the 30-year period of time, I mean, just in talking to him, I mean, the savings would be, I won't say just pay for lights, but be very close. It's huge. And you guys pay that bill without thinking about it every single year, paying the electrical bill. But these new LED lights not only will last longer, they're more efficient. And one of the beautiful things it does in the community around us, because we always have to be aware of the impact we'll have with our neighbors. These lights shine on the field and the field only. There'll be no light pollution outside to Lake Street and to all our neighbors and whatever. We'll enjoy them, they'll go off, and I think it's a great thing. It's better than the existing light that were there before. Having said that, those are huge savings that I want you to think about as you deliberate voting on it, because us doing this will possibly save us money down the line year after year after year as you deliberate your budgets. Last thing I say that with Matt, the cost of doing electrical hookups and all the things that we do, the new boxes, changing from 280 to 480, and all the things we need to do is about $32,000, and he's willing to do it for $15,000. He's donating the balance of that because obviously, that's the type of guy Matt Glenn is. He's a friend of Vinny and I for many, many years. He's done it a million times. I almost hate going to him because he's done it so often to so many different things. And so he's willing to give us that break. So we really, all we're looking at from our end of it, because I know you guys would be concerned about where we're going to get the money for the $15,000. I know that the boosters already raised $4,000. And I can tell you, if there's, I don't know how many families involved between soccer, lacrosse, football, I mean, you do the math, $50 each. I mean, to come up with $10,000, $11,000, not a lot. We will do fundraising. If there's anything I do fundraising. We're gonna have to come together. And I'm asking this because if they're able to vote this in, I don't want you guys to go away. Because one of the things they said here at the last meeting, if we sign that lease, they'll never fundraise. And I gotta tell you, you guys are right. I've been involved in many organizations, and as soon as somebody signs a dotted line and they're responsible, everyone kind of just disappears. And you're right, it happens all the time. I've seen it 1,000 times in my lifetime. So, but what I want to ask every parent, every person that's here, when we go to fundraise to make the difference of that, to make up that difference from 4,000 to 15,000, and I think we need about maybe 25, because you never know, 30,000, because you never know what you come into, what you run into. I've done many projects, I've been involved in a lot of different things, and sometimes it's not exactly what you do. There's always overcost. Sometimes it works that way, and it's not overcost. A lot of times there is, and we have to think like that. We have to raise the money, and I want all of you to almost even tonight commit that when it comes time that you get the email, or you get the phone call, that we come together as a community, we raise that money, and we do our portion of it. If the school committee is able to find it in their purview tonight to vote this, and then we have to do our end from the other side and get this done so we can have these lights for this fall. And I ask you to really consider it tonight. And I ask you not to put it off, because our first game is September 7th. And we have a lot of work and a lot of things to do. And it can be done. We can get it done by then. But we need for you guys to think about it and see if it's any way possible you can do it. And I think I've laid my case out. If you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Again, for public participation purposes tonight, we'll only be taking members of the audience who have new viable options for a solution to lighting of Sirco Field. Is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight during the public participation portion of this meeting? Okay. Seeing no others.
Hi. Hi.
Hello there.
How are you? I'm Stephanie Ritchie. How are you? Some of you know me because I'm your teacher, and some of you know me because I'm your neighbor, and some of you know me because I've coached your kids at youth soccer, and some of you know me from PTO. I don't know if it's a new idea, but I think we need new energy. As Mr. DiMacedo said, we need the community really rally around this. So many people are offering to be generous and help and put their time and energy in, him, his brother, everybody. There is a GoFundMe page out there, and when it first was published, some of my students have already donated. I saw you. I put that out on social media and texted Lakers I knew and contacted everyone I knew to do so. And directly after that, I saw a little groundswell of people connected to me who donated. And I think, even though I've spoken about it to my students have limited dollars and limited power, so I think now in front of adults, I'd like to just say that as well. Contact the circle of people you know, because we all have circles of people, and those people are willing to help. If we all contacted our circles, what we call balcony people, I think we could make that happen. The fundraising on the GoFundMe page has been a little slow, but I think that is probably not in response to people not wanting to help, but people waiting to see how this all played out. I would agree with Ollie in that I think if we really put our energies into this, we can make this all happen together. Little good faith from you for signing on the dotted line saying, yes, we can make this happen, but I agree, I think we can make this happen. I know you heard one of my students, Bobby Olson, speak last time. I have a zillion other students I see here today who could speak with equal passion. I think if we all speak to our folks who have a little more power, a little more dollars than we do, and get that out there and all the people in here today, I think we can make it happen. So I would just, it's not new, but I do want to add my support to Ollie, and thank you, and also to second that, but I think we can make it happen.
Thank you very much. I would entertain a motion from the committee to close the public participation portion of this meeting.
I'll make the motion to close.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So it's on to us.
I have multiple questions.
Would you like to begin, Ed? Go ahead.
Okay, I'm seeing numbers. I've got a figure of 390,000 here, right, 391,000. We're looking at 180, or 100 that we've dedicated. You're saying that we only need to come up with 80 more. So you're saying that somehow, through you, we can get 211,000.
Yes, I'm not saying it's going to be in kind and donations, so it's not dollars. I'm not paying anyone to come in and do that other than the $15,000 for the materials that Mequon needs for electrical hookup. So if you did it out on a noble situation and you bid it out, yes, it could be the money. And the 390 is only if it's 316,000 to do it legitimately. The additional monies was if you guys went into a lease agreement and you pay the extra money for the lease agreement, that would bring it up to the 380. So it's not that, and it's like everything else. So the people that are going to be helping and volunteering and donating, obviously, are not making any money. They're doing it for the community, and that's what we're going to do. So all we're looking for is $180,000.
Okay, my next question is, and Fred is not here, I'm not sure if we have the people with the knowledge because of that. Are we looking at any bid violations?
We're going to go to
We would have to go to an RFP.
yeah.
The next question, Jason, I guess this one's to you. Did you hear anything from the Army?
Ed, could you speak up a little bit?
Oh,
Yeah, I can't.
did you hear from the Army? By any chance?
So far, my response from the 101st Engineering Battalion was that they were running it up the chain of command to see what they could do to help. They do have heavy construction and vertical companies on base. This was something that Mike Antone brought to my attention. He works down there. And I have communicated back and forth with Command Sergeant Major Bowen. And he's just bringing it to the attention of his officers. So that's another avenue of some help and resource we could have potentially.
Unfortunately,
But no commitment at this
yeah,
point.
unfortunately, we're lost in red paperwork.
Well, I know Vinny has reached out as well to try and expedite it, so.
Okay. It would be nice if they could contribute, I'll be honest with you. All right, I'll let somebody else talk for a bit.
Yes.
And I'm kind of being a little redundant to Ed, but I'm not quite getting the math. If we take the 317, which is the total, minus 180 that the school committee is being asked for, that leaves us 137. take me through the rest of the math there.
What it is you're getting that 137 and people donating their time, equipment, and so on. That's just, if you had the 316 came from a company who said this is what it would take to put up those lights. They would do everything from beginning to end. What we're doing is saying we just want the product, we'll install it.
Go ahead.
So basically, you're gonna get donations of that figure in labor and equipment and so on. That's all that's happening.
So I heard cement, and I
Yeah.
heard electrical.
Mhm.
Who's erecting them? Who's coming out with a crane and lifting?
We have people that are gonna come out with the crane and do that as
Okay,
well. That's all on me.
Okay.
Mhm.
Wherever this goes, if we go down this road, I would like to see that kind of delineated out. Because again, I heard cement and I heard electrical, but there's a lot of other things that happen with that.
One of the things that we found out actually through the woman who runs the facilities here, which saves a lot of savings to us, but I realized all the infrastructure for the old lights are still in the ground. It's a huge savings there. All that infrastructure goes inside, because when we first met with Matt, we were looking at bringing power from 2 different sources to that side of the field so we would not have to disturb the field or go under the field, etc. But we found out that all the lines, and the lines that are existing there are good, and they'll take the power that we need. He did the analysis. It doesn't affect anything. It'll be more voltage, but it'll take the voltage that are in the ground already. So all that is gone away because it's already in the ground. They capped them, they put them in boxes, and there's 8 different locations. We only need 4 locations, and we'll pull out from those 4 locations where the poles will go, and then they'll erect them, and then they'll tie them into that. So that is a huge, huge, huge amount of savings. The fact that that's already been done, and it's already in the ground. The good thing about this is that there'll be no disruption of the field itself, the grass, or anything else, other than, drilling the caisson, because how these lights come together is this. They come, and there's a portion that's probably 10, 12 feet. It goes in about 6 feet into the ground, and it's encased in concrete. And then there's like a stub that sits there. Then the lights get shipped in all together, all wide, all ready. Basically, a crane comes in for one day. They pick them, and they drop them on top of the stub, and they're done. And the electrician just connects everything together. It's a pretty straightforward. All the lights are on it. The fixtures are on it. They all come together. This is how, and all the different companies that I talked to and spoke with on a national level, they come pretty ready, pretty simply ready to install. So that's how we're going to do it, basically.
Okay. I apologize, just, go ahead, actually.
I think what we deal with at the local level and with state money is we have to pay prevailing wages to companies to do any kind of install. So that usually is what brings that price right up there. So where we're having in-kind labor, we're not paying those prevailing wages, if you will. Do I have anybody else that understands the prevailing wages?
That's right.
So so I think when Musco or any of these other companies have to come up with an estimate, it's a big kind of swing, in terms of the number. They always going to go higher.
Yeah.
So just to add that.
Jason, I apologize, just one follow-up. Now, you mentioned that the electrical, they normally would charge $32,000, they would charge $15,000 here.
Mhm.
Where is that coming from? Because I think from a legal, contractual perspective, it's perhaps the school committee.
No, it's not the school committee. The lighting, actually, if you look at the bill, the quote from Matt Glenn is actually addressed to my company, not to the school committee. And so basically, we're not asking the school committee to be on the hook for anything. This money that we're going to raise, we're already at $4,000 the boosters have raised, so we know we're going to raise at least $11,000 of real money. And I think 25,000 is a better number, more realistic, because you never know what you run into. And that money will be raised from, because I heard the concerns when I was here 2 weeks ago, that you guys didn't want to be on the hook for anything else, and I get that. And so, when we did Pottle Street, just to give you an example, it was a huge bill, we couldn't do it. I got Peter Opachinski, who's a friend, we grew up together here in town. He has a huge company, it's SLT Construction, you guys know, I do work with them all over the state with him. I got him to come in, and he literally did all the earthwork, moved all the earth, got all the fields ready. We did all that stuff for zero for the town of Kingston. The town of Kingston paid for what they needed to pay. We bought the land for, I think, was $140,000. You know, it was crazy. Then we bought an additional 40 acres for $140,000, all to make that a reality for the town of Kingston. And it's been worked wonderful. And it was the same thing. It was a public and a private, partnership, and it worked. And, and I know the Opachinskis, every time they go there, it's a great thing for them, it's a great thing for our community, and we did it the exact same way. And I intend to do this the exact same way, no different. And this is a much, much simpler project than the Pottle Street Fields. We're not moving earth, there's no bulldozers coming here, talking a crane, and a drill. Those are 36 inches wide. Those footings that take these things are 36 inches wide. It's I know I probably just say it flippantly because I see it every day, so it's different for me, but it's not a huge thing. And so once the concrete hardens, after a week or so, the cranes come in, they pull up the light, they put them in, and then it's just a hookup. It's not a lot. Everything comes all done. They're all wired, pre-wired, everything's done.
If we voted to authorize transfer of funds, which would be what would be required here, how long from an okay from the school committee would it take until those lights were up and you could flip a switch and make them run?
Well, if the school committee voted tonight, the first thing I would do tomorrow morning is I would get Magdalen's engineers, in-house engineers, to draft an RFP, to say this is exactly what we're looking for, and go to RFP. Now, we may find, I don't want to back off the 180, but we may find that we have competitive bidders that are less than 180 for the exact same things that we're looking for. If that happens, that's a win for us. Who knows what happens? Who knows? The one company I spoke to out of Texas, they had the sets upon sets of these like on the ground, ready to go. I don't know, I bid every day, and that's what I do in my world. We're bidding all the time. So depending how much work I have, will dictate how much I bid a job for. I mean, I like to get X, but you know what? I'm short on work. I bid a lot less because I need the work. I do that. So we don't know what will happen there. We have our top where we know we don't want to go over 180, and if it goes over 180, then we don't do it. It's as simple as that. But if we go to an RFP and it comes to less than 180, two things. I would ask that you don't take the 180 away from us because we may need it for other things, but I would say that there's a good possibility that may happen. And so that's how that would work. We would draft the RFP, we'd go out to RFP, wait for certain days, we'd let all the bids come in, we'd open the bids, the cheapest bid would be it, we'd do a contract through the school committee, and when we are ready for them, then they would deliver the lights directly to the fields. And we would be prepared at that point to take them on. And it's only 4 light posts, by the way, just 4 of them, that's all it takes, only 4 light posts. And that will give you more light than, it's amazing, if you go online and look through it's amazing what they're doing, all over the country. And even locally, almost every other high school around here locally have lights, and you can see the type of things they have. And I'm going to say, if we do it, I'm going to be proud of the fact that we did it for cheaper than anybody else did it for.
But my question comes back to how long? We have a meeting tonight. We also have a meeting on July 12th.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the committee is going to be comfortable tonight making a decision or if we're going to need to think about this. How long?
3 to 4 weeks is the time that we would receive the lights, is the lead time. We would need that. But we have permitting, we got to go through the permitting process to the town of Kingston. Obviously, I would hope, we can get help there, but I'm just saying, legitimately, so, a month and a half, 2 months, with all the stuff that we have to go through, there's a lot. And so it's going to be July 1st at the end of the week. And so you have July, August, then you got September. So we have a lot of work quickly. So if you guys feel comfortable, I would really urge you to vote tonight, because then we can begin our process.
And I know that we're aiming for September 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Flip the switch, the lights are there.
Mm-hmm.
Senator,
Yes, sir.
if you earmark $75,000 for fiscal year '20,
2009, yeah, so this is 19, it's a FY 2000.
that would be under the assumption that we voted tonight to reallocate enough money to get to the $180,000 level.
He's my brother, so that's the deal.
Would you be willing to write that earmark for the capital budget for Silver Lake Regional Schools? Or would it have to say lights?
It would be challenging to do that. I mean, for me, just like, for example, when I did the Herring Run, I did it specifically for handicap accessibility for the Herring Run. I think from my perspective, to make, the case, this is a one-time expenditure. As I said, we do Chapter 70, which is $5 billion a year, and they go to schools, but this is something that is a one-time thing. I'll give you an example. My predecessor, Senator Murray, had done $500,000 for AstroTurf fields in the town of Sandwich. She did that probably 4 or 5 years ago. So that's, I'm not saying, and that's a big number, and she was the Senate President, I'm not. But it is something that is tangible, that they can see, and it's a one-time expenditure. And again, you still have to get the Senate to do it, then of course the House has to agree, and the governor has to agree at the end. Just my experience, I'm sharing with you that it's possible, it's probable, but I always do the caveat because I don't overpromise. If my brother hadn't called me here today, I wouldn't be here making this, but I can tell you I will do everything I possibly can to get it. Because my hope would be for you just to expend the $100,000, $105,000. I get how difficult school is. But it is a probability in 2020 that, I will put the earmark in and hopefully get that.
I'm sure the committee could give you a more specific project. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a capital plan here for this school and for the middle school of $500,000. A few years ago, we had what's called a building envelope study done of the two buildings, and we found that both buildings had severe water infiltration issues. And we've been trying to mitigate those issues so we don't lose these two buildings. We have $200,000 in the capital plan to preserve our buildings. We've been doing this over the past few years, and we do a lot of the labor in-house with our own custodial and janitorial staff because we're trying to save money. We have money in the capital plan for a Kubota skid loader to recrown the field. These are the things we're going to have to cut out of the budget in order to come up potentially with $80,000 more. We have an administration building that is not handicap accessible right now. Any parents, any students who try and go into the admin building who are in a wheelchair, we have to meet them off-site. We can't even invite them into our administrative building. We had $25,000 in our capital plan to just look at a study of how to address that issue. The money is going to come from somewhere, and it's going to hurt, no matter where we pull it from. Our only other option is pulling from the operation budget, which would mean teachers being cut for lights. So I just want you to realize as you watch the deliberation here that we are absolutely taking serious your concerns. We would love to flip that switch and I'll be there on September 7th with the lights on. But please understand the sacrifices that are going to be made in order to make that a reality if that happens here tonight.
If you're gonna flip the switch, we're charging the person that flips the switch $2,000 to do that.
I like the way you think.
Yeah.
Does anybody from the committee have any more comments, questions?
Well,
Laura.
I think, what I was going to say is kind of in line with what you just said, but I want to sort of reiterate to make sure that I understand and make sure that folks understand. I heard the senator say the budget is set for this year, that he can't go back and, and put in this amendment for some funds for us. And our budget is set too. We have our operating budget and our capital plan. And those are the only two places we could possibly pull this $80,000 from. And I just want to make sure that I'm correct in saying that. So we're looking at either taking it from the operating budget, which is teacher salaries at this point. I see parents here that are teachers. I see parents here that stand up for our schools, and I know that nobody wants to see any cuts come from the operating budget. We don't have anything to cut. There's no paper clips left, right, Mr. Creed?
That's your sentence. There's no paper clips left. That's your sentence.
I heard that.
I took 2 paper clips and I left, so you got nothing left.
So I just want to make sure that I'm clear and that everybody's clear that that's what we're looking at. And that's what I just heard you say, but I just want to reiterate that, because it does make things very difficult. The operating budget, obviously, there's no wiggle room. This capital plan, I look at it, and you just went through it pretty quickly, but there's really not a whole lot in there that we don't absolutely need. And we spend a lot of time prioritizing, and the stuff that's on this list has been pushed off from previous years. So I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that we don't have this pot of extra money that we can just pull from. This is stuff that's already been funds that have already been dedicated for stuff that we really, really need to run the schools. So,
I heard the term overages, and not just the high school region, but all 3 community schools have suffered badly because of overages, and important necessary things in all of those buildings have been cut because of overages. I would like to see some kind of cap put on how much these overages could cost. I'm sorry, I know it might be unreasonable. This doesn't just go with this project. While I'm still here, I'm going to be all over that issue because it's not acceptable.
I'm sorry, Ed, what are you?
Overages. Overages have cost us important things in all of the 3 communities.
Overages meaning,
Overages and cost.
okay, all right, so the project is X and it's X plus a certain.
Yeah, I don't want to hear
Okay.
later on $50,000 for this, $60,000 for that. It's ridiculous, and to be perfectly honest, the price is the price. I don't care. It's the real world. I don't care. It can't be accepted. We have buildings in these 3 communities that have real major problems.
but I think what I'm hearing is that the funds that the district's being asked for are for the lights, and we have a budget for those
I
lights.
understand.
And if it came in and we said we can't get the budgets for less than 300 or 250, then we're not buying the lights. We're not, without going back to the drawing board, am I right there? So I think, overages are certainly concerned, but what I hear is that the cost of the project, without the capital cost of the lights, is not on the school district, the way that this is being proposed.
Paul?
Am I correct?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, do you want to answer her
Yeah.
first and then I'll?
I missed that because they were asking about A&D money, so
That's
I'm
okay.
all over the place.
No,
E&D.
I hear Ed's
Excuse me.
concern about overages, but my understanding is what the school district is being asked for is the funds to purchase the lights, which
That's
is a
all.
capital expense.
Yeah.
We're not being asked to.
We're not looking to come back to school committee for additional funds whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's on all these people you see around you, that's on them. And so, and then, on us to do that, but it's a one-time, and all I can say is that eventually, at some point, the school committee will have to deal with these lights. It's not gonna go away next year, the year after that. And all I'm saying is that if we have an opportunity to basically, in a perfect world, obviously, and I know that my brother can't promise it, but in a perfect world, we could potentially be getting these lights for $105,000. I mean, all I'm saying is that it may not happen, and I don't wanna say that's gonna be the case, and it may not be the case. I'm concerned about the additional cost that will incur year 1, year 2, year 3, and what those lights will cost when it comes to that. Maybe we don't have other lights. That's a possibility. The priorities are the teachers. I would never want you to take the money from the teachers, trust me. Very important to me. So I would just say that it's really, if there's a way you can shift some things that put off, that are still gonna happen, they may not happen this year. I'm just asking you to prioritize us over something else for just 1 year or 1.5 years, and that's it. And then after that, obviously, I can't speak to that, but that's all I'm trying to make happen.
I had a question.
Excuse me, sir. I need to take comments from my committee first, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
so you had opened it up to ask if the community wanted anything, and somebody else
closed that.
community said.
Closed.
You closed it.
I did close the public participation.
All right, well, this is gonna be needed.
Paul?
A couple of things. Somewhere in the conversation, it was stated that if we appropriated $180,000, the lights came in less than that, we would still give the $180,000. my position right now would be, I would be interested perhaps if we went down this road for the school committee to find funding for the lights. If they came in at 160, school committee produces 160, the lights come in at 150, the school committee produces 150. That would help get something perhaps off of our list that we're potentially putting off, if we vote in that direction.
I'm fine with that. That
Okay,
works.
and with all due respect, and I love the idea that you're gonna try and get funding for us, that's 2 years out, if we see it at all. So, again, I'm sensitive to that, and I think, I'm a worst-case scenario kind of person, I hope that funding comes through, but we need to think about if it doesn't, we're set back by that amount. So, and then, the second thing I wanted to say is, has this gone by Fred at all, this whole community, school committee joint venture?
We ran by Fred and there's an attached to your agenda.
I did see that, yeah.
Whether or not, if we were to agree to the concept of the extra 80,000, that we could do that, a donation of materials. I mean, we accept donations all the time.
Right.
So that part would be okay. I think the piece that would be important, and I know it's a very large company, is to just make sure that the company that is installing the light poles, that it meets any engineering requirements. It's the town permitting, that we would meet all those requirements.
Okay, yeah,
So-
my mind contractually might go a bit further than that, but I'll hold on.
I'm sorry, the only other thing I did want to say is there had been a question about whether or not we could, if people said they were going to donate, hold them to the concept of fundraising, there really would be no legal obligation. I mean, we could do
Clearly.
some sort of
Yeah.
hopeful letter, but I mean, there would be no teeth to it, I guess.
Letter of understanding or something like that, just to keep people on track, to keep
Right.
people focused, and, if hopefully things go as planned, but they don't always go as planned. The electric work, the company all of a sudden can't do it, something happens, they're in bankruptcy, they're being sued, whatever, how do you replace that? I'd hate to see us pay $100 and some odd thousand to have 4 lights sitting on the field for, another year or two, because we weren't able to fully install and get them.
I have a proposal that may help you. If you decide to vote tonight, I would ask you to vote pending us raising that money, so you know that's being taken care of, so there's no issue for you. I have no problem with that, and I understand that, you should do that. In other words, when we're prepared from our end of it, and I think it'd be a good thing to let the people know that we've got to raise X amount of dollars to make this happen. There's a whole process for the RFP process and all that takes a long, long time. Now, if it's all ready when that comes, then you guys buy the equipment. Otherwise, you don't buy the equipment. And I understand exactly, because I've sat on the other side of this table, so I know. So what we're saying is, if we don't have the money to do our end of it, then don't buy the equipment, and you just keep your money, and we'll deal with it another year.
But now, how does that timeline that for me? Because.
So we would go out to an RFP, and how long that takes, a month or so,
Okay.
and then we would get bids, the bids would be open, we would look, they're all, like kind and quality, they're all the same thing, apples for apples.
And that's within the 4 weeks you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe even more, maybe 6 weeks. So
Okay.
then what happens is, then we decide on that, on the bid process, right?
Yeah.
We have the bid, say we decide on low bidder, say it comes in at $140,000 for those lights. Then we know that. Meanwhile, all these people are raising money. Then like you asked 2 weeks ago, how much have we raised? At the time it was $2,700. Now it's $4,000. At that point, if we have $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, I think you feel a lot better by saying, let's do it. And I agree with you, and I have no problem, because it puts the pressure on everyone who came here tonight to say, we're going to do this, but we got skin in the game. So if all of us coming together and got skin in the game, and we raise our end of it, and it's going to take work from everybody, then I think the school committee would feel a lot more comfortable. And I personally, trying to spearhead this, don't have a problem saying, if we can have the money, I don't expect you guys to come up with your money either. I don't.
So, just so we can clarify, a couple caveats, if there's a vote taken, will be that we only meet the total bill for the 4 polls.
Yeah.
So if it comes in less than the additional 80,000, we only give up to what it needs. And second, we only allocate those funds if, and we probably need to set a dollar amount for the fundraising. Potentially. So we know we need at least 15, but you said you're.
$25,000 to
For
$30,000.
potentially-
Yeah.
The cost overruns, Ed, but again, it would be cost overruns for the fundraising portion of it.
Sorry, I want this to happen, but, and I'm sorry I'm seeming overly aggressive.
That's
but
all right.
I have a lot of things,
I got thick skin.
yeah. Jason, Eric would have to abstain if we were to take a vote tonight.
Who's not here?
Not here, not to worry.
Well, he would have had to abstain, he's got
Yes.
a hat in the ring. The other two, they had the opportunity to be here, so they're not here.
Mhm.
Okay. So that was their
We have a
choice.
quorum. We can vote tonight if it's what the
Yeah.
committee so decides. We can also hold ourselves back a little. Mike, go ahead.
Chair, I just have just a couple other math follow-up questions.
Go ahead, please.
And I do agree with Paula about the state funding for the 2020, that the 75,000. I would say that is probably not gonna come in. That's how I feel about that. The way the budgets go, worst case scenario, so you gotta think about the 75,000. The McElhenny Electric, thanks for putting all that work together too, I appreciate that. You said 15, but then you said 25, so is
No, I'm saying that I think, just from being in the construction world, whenever you do these projects, there's always some kind of overrun, this unforeseen thing. So you always want to figure 10%, 15%, you just do that. Now, they may raise the $25,000, $30,000, and we only spent 15. More power to the boosters, they have to do other things for the kids, that's all.
So is, I guess the follow-up, so is he gonna need those funds to make the purchases?
Yes.
So is that on top of the 80,000?
Yeah, that's above and beyond, but that has nothing to do with the school, that's us, and they've already raised $4,000, so we're $11,000 away from the Matt Glenn bill, yes. $11,000 away from the Matt Glenn bill, yes.
Chris?
Yeah, I want to thank Vinnie again for offering to get some funds. I guess my question, I think you raised it in an indirect way maybe. If we got lighting money and the lights are up, we really couldn't use that funding anymore, I guess. Because it would be earmarked for lights, so we'd almost need to, in a sense, re-earmark it through you for something else.
So probably, and that's an excellent point, so probably you have a capital plan, you have something specific, do you have something similar as far as dollar amount that you needed? You said the skid steer, you said, work for water, hand intrusion.
Yeah.
Again, that would probably make sense to try to do that, because the timing of it would be done.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's a good point, and I think that we could, since you have a capital budget, that's what I would suggest, is to try to do it something specifically, because if you do this, it's clear that you're gonna have to replace, you're not gonna do something.
Right.
So that funding for the next legislature, and again, the budget finishes on June 30th of this year, so the money's come available probably by September, October, so now you're looking from a year from September, October next year, if I was successful.
So the earmarks, so Senator, what you're saying is the earmarks need a story that you can relate to fellow lawmakers. It can't just be for the capital plan. It would have to be for a specific project.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a second question.
Go ahead, Chris.
And this is sort of a legal, the RFP process. How do we allow a third party to RFP on our behalf?
You don't, I was gonna have the facilities, I met with, what's her name? Kara, I met with Kara
Okay.
this past week, and she walked me through that, how she does it.
Okay.
We would use, that's how it would be done, I wouldn't be doing that, Kara would be doing that.
I was wondering how
We
we go.
have Kara
So
slash
to get around and
Christine.
get a better price.
Yeah.
I want to understand from the public side, we might be better pricing than from the municipal side. So I was trying to figure out where that was getting the RFP from. Okay, thank you.
What is it? Say it all night.
So,
Request for proposal.
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, just to
Oh, yes.
redirect us and refocus us. We're looking to take $80,000 from the operating budget, potentially, or from the capital plan, potentially. However, in real terms, this could be saving us $138,000 we might outlay later for lights through the labor, through the Lawrence Ready Mix, through Glen Electric, through the boosters raising money. If the senator is able to get $75,000 more for our capital plan on top of that, we really need to take a hard look at this, because this could be a win-win situation for both our students, for our communities. I don't know how many wins we can add together here. Would anybody like to start entertaining where we could potentially pull these funds, or if you're even willing to entertain that notion at all?
So in looking at the capital plan for next year, then I just want to, sort of investigate this. The two items under equipment, which is the utility vehicle, Bobcat, and skid loader. The total for that in the capital plan is $71,678. What is the, I'm just trying to figure out what is the impact if we don't fund those things in next year's capital, in this coming year's capital plan?
And actually, does it affect the operating plan, the operating budget? Because I think we were substituting our own equipment in some cases for contractors'
True,
work.
right. And I think that's part of the question. I know there's another piece on this
Yeah.
capital plan for 4,200 to recrown the football field, which is kind of based on having that equipment.
Exactly.
So I guess that's sort of a third item that gets grouped together, but I'm just wondering if we could talk about those three items and sort of the impact
So,
on those.
if I may, we were purchasing the skid loader and the, what's it called, the,
Bobcat.
for the recrowning for the loam and the seed was for the practice field. If we do not purchase the skid loader, the loam and the seed, we would not recrown the practice football field. So that would be a pretty definite, clear cut. If we don't replace the Kubota vehicle, we will probably need to buy some additional duct tape to hold the current Kubota vehicle together and hope that it can make it. I don't remember off the top of my head what year it is, and I don't have my glasses on.
It's 10 years old.
It's 10 years old. It is well used. The only thing that I would need to be sure, and I guess I'm wondering whether it would be helpful if the committee chose to make it, is to hold a safety facility fees and revenue where we could hold a lengthier conversation. I do not believe an order has been placed for these, but I cannot guarantee because the committee had voted it. So if the order is placed, it would take those off the table. So it may behoove us, if the committee is interested in approaching it, that we go back to a safer committee, which would come forward to the full committee in July 12th. If we held a safer committee before the school committee on the 12th, if people were available, where we could really sort of hash this out and I could see where we are in commitments. Because for work to take place over the summer, once the capital plan is built, we start making the calls and lining that up. So I don't know where we are in terms of
Is
this
there an
commitments.
RFP process as well on those?
On these ones, I believe they are, yeah. So they could, they may be, they may not. Actually, these might be off the list that we don't need to RFP the equipment. I think they're off the list that they're acceptable.
It's also going to impact our snow removal
Absolutely.
capabilities.
Yeah.
The Kubota is one of our main vehicles we use to clear our own sidewalks and our parking lots. Again, the towns don't do it for us. We're our own town here at Silver Lake. So again, this would impact potentially us having to subcontract out to others for some of the snow plowing, which would impact our operating budget potentially.
Yeah, I think I agree with Dr. Joy there, that we gotta figure out if we place the bids on those. If they're already in, if we've already purchased them, going down what we have on our plan list here, I don't see us undoing the planning for the handicap awareness and the planning for the administrative building. I don't see us wiping out a security measure or wiping out some virtual desktop technology. And that leaves us with it puts us just back to the building envelope. Do we want to risk another year of potential leaks? I think we had on this particular room exactly this year.
Yeah, I was just looking up actually
who's
to
standing
see
underneath
how
it,
it
right?
handled the rain
Yeah.
today. Because for those students who were here, you may remember, we had to, at the library closed, we had quite a leak going this winter.
So that's
I
a
wasn't
tough,
involved in the building of the school.
yeah, so getting rid of that building repairs
Good
on
to
both
hear.
sides is
Yeah.
tough, very tough for me. I could see getting rid of those three, the two equipment and the repairing the football field, practice field. But my fear is without the Bobcat, if we have an issue operationally, we then need to make an adjustment.
Right.
Anybody else from the committee?
There's only so many times you can weld and update them. You know how it goes.
I guess that's to Joy.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
How many staff would we have to cut?
For what?
We'll say teachers. If we were to have to.
80,000?
Yeah, it's just one, right?
1.5-ish.
1.5. That's.
But
teachers.
what
That's
happens
teachers.
is, again, there's a bit of a domino effect.
I know.
So,
I mean, I'll move we wait to have a safer meeting in 2 weeks to investigate the status of those, and then have our meeting in 2 weeks, follow up for the full committee, and see if that's even a possibility. If not, then we're at the same table, having the same conversation of what we cut.
I just gave a motion, if that's what it was.
Yes, that was the motion.
Just question is that, only because of time, I was wondering, is there any way that you could vote pending that? So in other words, we don't have to come back to revisit this? In other words, and if everything checks out with the committee there, then it's already done, you have to come back pending that. If you find out that that's not the case, then we know what our answer is. At least it's not another time. I'm only looking for time, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, I
So-
think it makes only 75 grand, doesn't get us the full 80, quite frankly, those three items.
right.
So it's close.
Yeah,
I'm crossing my fingers you can get us 5 grand in the RFP.
And the RFP may come in less than that.
right.
May come in less than that money.
Right, yeah.
And if I may, and I apologize for interrupting, Christine Healer, our business manager, just got here. She said that we have not ordered the skid steer or the Kubota. So it looks like those are available. Thank you.
Chris, would you like to keep your motion on the table, or would you like to rescind your motion?
And again, you know, we could make the motion without the full vote, but now we know what may
Yeah.
be the cleanest, easiest cut could happen.
Yeah.
You know, and we can have the safer meeting and vote officially, because we have to take a full school committee vote of what's being cut by Fred's legal opinion. So if we voted it pending the items, we could just take it out of the capital plan and then July decide what items they would actually be.
Yeah, I'd like to keep my motion for 2 weeks, primarily on the Bobcat. If we're literally duct taping that together and we have trouble come January 1st with snow removal, I'd like to have some sort of idea of operationally where we're going to be standing with equipment
So-
missing.
Would you repeat the motion, Mr. Chair, after me?
Absolutely. Chris has made a motion that prior to our July 12th meeting, that we convene what used to be called the Buildings and Grounds Committee. It's now Safety, Facilities, Fees, and Revenue Committee, for a 5 o'clock meeting to discuss the items to potentially be cut from our capital plan to raise up to the $80,000 as requested for the lighting of
Yes.
Sirco Field.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Sorry. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're wondering what just happened, you heard a discussion to send this back to a subcommittee to make sure that what we cut prior to cutting it is not going to damage the operating of this school system for the next year. We will be reconvening this school committee on July 12th at 6 o'clock here at the high school.